Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Aurora Dawn and watched the stars through the wide windows. His ship carried 50,000 people who wanted to start new lives on a planet called New Haven. They had been traveling for 3 years through the cold darkness of space. The long journey was almost over, and Jake felt proud of what they had done. The Aurora Dawn was huge, but it moved slowly through space like a whale swimming through an ocean. Inside the ship, families lived in small rooms and worked together to keep everything running. Children played in the corridors while their parents grew food in the farming sections. Everyone knew they were part of something important. They were going to build a new world for humanity. Jake walked around the bridge and checked the controls. Lisa Parker worked at the engineering station, making sure the engines ran smoothly. She was smart and never let problems grow too big. Ben Carter sat at the navigation controls and watched the route to New Haven. He had planned their path through space for many months and knew every star along the way. The ship's computers suddenly made loud warning sounds. Someone was trying to talk to them through space radio. Jake told his crew to put the message on the main screen. The face that appeared was not human. It looked like a lizard, but with 4 eyes and gray skin. The creature wore a uniform covered with strange symbols. The alien spoke in perfect human language. "I am Ambassador Krell of the Hegemony Coalition. You humans must stop here and listen to my words. Your species has spread to too many worlds already. We cannot allow you to take more planets. Turn your ship around and go back where you came from." Jake felt anger rise in his chest. No alien had the right to tell humans where they could go. He stepped forward and looked directly at the screen. "This is Captain Morrison of the Aurora Dawn. We have traveled 3 years to reach New Haven. 50,000 people depend on us to get them to their new home. We will not turn back." Krell's 4 eyes blinked slowly. "Captain Morrison, you do not understand the situation. The Hegemony Coalition controls this part of space. 12 different alien species work together to keep peace and order. Humans are dangerous because you breed too fast and take over planets quickly. If you do not obey our commands, we will destroy your ship." The alien's words made Jake even more angry. Humans had never attacked other species without good reason. They only wanted to find new places to live and raise their families. "We are peaceful people looking for a new home. We have done nothing wrong. You have no right to threaten us." Krell made a sound like laughing, but it was cold and mean. "Humans always say they are peaceful, but then you multiply like insects and push out other species. Your 15 colony worlds are already too many. We will not allow a 16th world to fall under human control." Jake looked at his crew and saw the same anger in their faces. Lisa Parker's hands were tight on her controls. Ben Carter stared at the screen with hate in his eyes. These aliens wanted to stop them from giving families a chance at a better life. "Ambassador Krell," Jake said with a steady voice, "humanity will never bow to threats from you or any other species. We have the right to travel through space and settle on empty planets. New Haven has no intelligent life, and we will not harm anyone by living there." The alien's expression became darker. "Then you have chosen war, Captain Morrison. Your ship and everyone on it will be destroyed as an example to other humans. No more warnings will be given." The screen went black, and Jake felt his heart beating fast. He knew the aliens might have weapons stronger than anything on the Aurora Dawn, but he would not let fear control his decisions. 50,000 people trusted him to get them safely to New Haven. Lisa Parker looked up from her station with worry on her face. "Captain, the sensors are picking up 3 large ships moving toward us. They just appeared out of nowhere." Jake watched the tactical display and saw 3 alien warships much bigger than the Aurora Dawn. They had been invisible until now, which meant they had technology humans did not understand. The ships moved into attack positions around the human vessel. Ben Carter checked his instruments quickly. "We are only 6 hours away from New Haven, Captain. If we push the engines to maximum speed, we might reach the planet before they can stop us. Jake made his decision fast. All crew to battle stations. Send a message to all passengers telling them to prepare for emergency landing procedures. We are going to New Haven no matter what these aliens do to try to stop us. The first alien. Weapon hit the Aurora Dawn and the whole ship shook like an earthquake. Lights flickered and alarms started ringing everywhere. Jake held onto his chair as another blast struck their shields. He knew the battle for humanity's future had just begun. President Amanda Ross sat in the emergency meeting room on Earth and read the terrible news again. The Aurora Dawn was gone, and 50,000 people were trapped on New Haven with alien ships watching them from space. The attack had happened only 3 days ago, but already the whole human government was working to decide what to do next. General Rick Adams stood at the big table and pointed to a map of human space. Red marks showed where alien ships had been seen near human colonies. Madam President, the situation is getting worse every hour. The hegemony has sent ultimatums to 12 of our frontier worlds. They are giving civilians 24 hours to leave their homes or face orbital bombardment. Amanda felt sick thinking about millions of families being forced to run from their homes. These were people who had worked for years to build farms and cities on distant planets. Now aliens wanted to destroy everything they had created just because humans were spreading through the galaxy too fast. Admiral Susan Blake entered the room carrying a data pad filled with military reports. She was the best naval commander humanity had, and her face showed how serious the threat really was. The enemy fleet is massive, Madam President. Our scouts count over 3,000 alien warships of different designs. They have technology we do not understand, including stealth systems and energy weapons far beyond our current capabilities. General Adams pulled up more information on the wall screen. Our combined military forces include 200 ships total. Most of them are patrol vessels or transports with light weapons. We have maybe 30 ships that could fight a real battle against alien warships. Amanda studied the numbers and felt the weight of leadership pressing down on her shoulders. Humanity had spread across 15 worlds during the past century, but they had never expected to face a threat like this. Their military was designed to keep peace between human colonies, not fight advanced alien civilizations. On New Haven, Ben Carter worked with the other survivors to build shelter for the people who had escaped the Aurora Dawn. The planet was beautiful, with clean air and fertile soil, but it felt like a prison with alien ships blocking all escape routes. Dr. Claire Walsh moved between the refugee camps treating injured people and trying to keep everyone's spirits up. The colonists had managed to save most of their farming equipment and building supplies before the ship was destroyed. Lisa Parker had stayed behind with a small crew to keep the engines running while the evacuation pods launched toward the planet's surface. Her sacrifice had saved thousands of lives, but the cost was heavy on everyone's hearts. Ben looked up at the sky and could sometimes see the alien ships as bright dots against the stars. The hegemony forces did not attack the people on the ground, but they made sure no human vessels could leave the system. It was like being in a cage with no way out. Back on Earth, Dr. Alan Mitchell worked in his laboratory on weapons that might help humanity fight back. For 20 years, he had been developing experimental technology that the government thought was too dangerous to use. Now, with aliens threatening to destroy human civilization, those same weapons might be their only hope for survival. The quantum communication system brought more bad news every few hours. The farming world of Green Valley had been evacuated after hegemony forces arrived in orbit. 2 million people were crowded onto transport ships with nowhere safe to go. The mining colony on Iron Ridge was under direct attack with alien ground forces landing to take control of the metal extraction facilities. Admiral Blake stood before the Military Planning Committee and explained their options. We cannot win a direct battle against the hegemony fleet. Their numbers and technology give them overwhelming advantages. However, humans have always been good at finding new ways to solve impossible problems. She activated a holographic display showing human space and the positions of enemy forces. The aliens seem to prefer slow pressure instead of quick, decisive strikes. They want to strangle our expansion gradually rather than risk heavy losses in major battles. This gives us time to develop countermeasures and new tactics. General Adams nodded in agreement. Our intelligence reports suggest the hegemony has never faced an enemy like humanity before. Most species they have conquered followed predictable military doctrines and surrendered when faced with superior numbers. They might not be prepared for the kind of unconventional warfare humans can wage. President Ross made her decision after hours of discussion with advisors and military leaders. She would not surrender even one human world to alien threats. Humanity had the right to expand through the galaxy and build new homes for their growing population. The quantum transmitters sent her message to every human colony and ship in space. Her words were simple but filled with determination. Citizens of humanity, we face the greatest challenge in our species' history. Alien forces demand that we abandon our dreams of exploring the galaxy and building new worlds for our children. They threaten to destroy us if we do not obey their commands. She paused and looked directly into the camera, knowing millions of people across 15 worlds were listening to her words. I say to the Hegemony Coalition and any species that supports them that humanity will never surrender. We will defend every world, every family, and every dream that makes us who we are. If they want war, then they will face the full fury of human determination. The broadcast ended, and Amanda sat back in her chair. War was coming whether humanity wanted it or not. The aliens had pushed too far, and now they would learn what happened when humans were forced to fight for their survival. 3 months had passed since the war began, and humanity was losing badly. 7 colony worlds had been evacuated with millions of refugees crowded into transport ships that moved from system to system looking for safety. The hegemony strategy was working perfectly as they slowly squeezed human expansion without risking major losses to their own forces. Colonel Dan Hughes crouched in a cave deep underground on Iron Ridge and studied maps of the planet's surface. The mining world had been one of the first to fall under alien occupation, but the people who lived there refused to give up without a fight. Dan had been a Marine for 15 years and knew how to fight enemies with better weapons and more soldiers. The caves of Iron Ridge went deep into the planet's crust, where the mining companies had dug tunnels for decades. These dark passages became highways for human resistance fighters who struck at alien patrols and then disappeared before reinforcements could arrive. The hegemony had powerful warships in space, but their ground forces were not prepared for this kind of warfare. Mary Johnson worked in a hidden workshop fixing captured alien equipment and trying to understand how it functioned. She had been the chief engineer for the Iron Ridge mining operation before the invasion, and her knowledge of machinery helped the resistance fighters use enemy weapons against their former owners. Every piece of alien technology they captured was another chance to learn their weaknesses. On Earth, Dr. Alan Mitchell finally achieved the breakthrough he had been working toward for months. His quantum entanglement research had created a communication system that worked instantly across any distance in space. More importantly, the same technology could be used to target weapons with perfect accuracy even when the enemy was moving at high speed. Admiral Susan Blake received the first quantum targeting system on her flagship Defiance and immediately began planning how to use it in battle. Human ships were smaller and faster than alien vessels, but they had always struggled to hit moving targets at long range. This new technology would change everything by making every shot count. The test came when Blake's scouts detected a hegemony supply convoy moving through the outer system near Mars. 3 alien transport ships carried weapons and equipment to their forces, while 2 warships provided protection. The convoy followed standard alien tactics, staying in tight formation and relying on heavy armor to survive any attack. Blake approached with only 5 human ships, but each one was equipped with the new quantum targeting system. Her plan was simple and dangerous. Get close enough to use their weapons effectively, then hit the enemy with everything they had before the aliens could respond with overwhelming firepower. The battle lasted only 10 minutes, but it proved that human technology was catching up to alien advantages. Every missile and energy beam fired by Blake's ships hit their targets exactly where they would cause the most damage. The alien escorts tried to protect the supply ships, but found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to predict their every move. When the smoke cleared, all 5 enemy vessels were destroyed or crippled, while the human ships escaped with only minor damage. News of the victory spread quickly through human space and gave people hope that the war could still be won. On New Haven, Ben Carter made his own discovery that would change the course of the conflict. The colonists had been studying wreckage from the Aurora Dawn and pieces of alien technology that fell to the planet's surface during the battle. Ben's team found something interesting in the enemy ship computers that the hegemony probably never expected humans to understand. The alien fleets used a centralized control network that connected all their ships and ground forces. Orders came from command centers and were distributed through quantum links to every unit in the field. The system was designed to coordinate massive military operations across multiple star systems, but it had a weakness that human hackers could exploit. Chris Anderson had been a computer programmer on the Aurora Dawn before the attack, and he understood both human and alien software better than anyone else on New Haven. Working with equipment salvaged from the colony ship, he began developing computer viruses that could spread through the hegemony network and cause their systems to malfunction. The first test was small but successful. Anderson managed to hack into a lone alien patrol ship orbiting New Haven and caused its navigation system to fail. The ship spun out of control for several hours before the crew could regain manual control. More importantly, the virus had transmitted itself to other alien vessels before being detected and removed. Admiral Blake learned about the cyber warfare breakthrough and immediately contacted Anderson through secret quantum channels. If human programmers could disrupt alien computer systems on a large scale, it would give them a powerful weapon that the enemy would find hard to defend against. Captain Paul Stevens commanded a small patrol group near the Jupiter system when he became the first human officer to use both quantum targeting and cyber warfare in the same battle. His 3 ships encountered an alien squadron of 7 vessels that should have been impossible to defeat in direct combat. Stevens used Anderson's virus to attack the enemy computer systems, while his quantum targeting allowed his weapons to hit with deadly accuracy. The alien ships found their systems failing at the worst possible moments, while human missiles struck them exactly where their armor was weakest. Within an hour, the entire enemy squadron was destroyed with no human casualties. The victory sent shockwaves through both human and alien command structures. For the first time since the war began, human forces had won a major engagement against superior numbers using tactics the hegemony had never seen before. The aliens realized they were fighting an enemy that could adapt and innovate faster than they had expected. Colonel Hughes received word of the space victories while planning another raid on alien ground forces. His resistance fighters had been learning from every battle and developing new ways to hurt the enemy. The aliens might control the planet's surface, but they could not stop humans from fighting back in ways no other species had ever tried before. The success of Captain Stevens and his small fleet gave humanity hope that they could fight back against the hegemony coalition. Word spread quickly through human space about the new tactics that had destroyed an entire alien squadron without losing a single human ship. Resistance fighters on occupied worlds began coordinating their attacks while military commanders planned larger operations using quantum targeting and cyber warfare. Colonel Dan Hughes had become a legend among the resistance fighters on Iron Ridge. His guerrilla tactics were copied on other occupied worlds where humans refused to accept alien rule. Lieutenant Kate Murphy led similar operations on the agricultural world of Green Valley, using hit-and-run attacks that kept enemy forces constantly on guard. Sergeant Joe Turner organized civilians on the mining colony of Red Rock to sabotage alien equipment and gather intelligence about enemy movements. The hegemony had expected to face organized military resistance that followed predictable patterns like other species they had conquered. Instead, they found themselves fighting entire populations that used any means necessary to drive out the invaders. Farmers became bomb makers, while teachers became spies and children served as messengers carrying information between resistance cells. Dr. Alan Mitchell's research team worked around the clock to develop more advanced weapons for the human military. His laboratory had become the most important facility on Earth as scientists and engineers pushed the boundaries of human technology. Dr. Rachel Stone joined the team as a specialist in quantum physics and immediately began working on even more devastating weapons than the targeting systems already in use. The breakthrough came when Stone successfully created gravity bombs that could collapse the molecular structure of enemy ships. The weapons used quantum fields to increase gravity in a small area until the target was crushed by its own mass. Early tests on asteroids showed that the bombs could destroy objects much larger than human warships in seconds. Admiral Blake received the first gravity bombs just as she was planning Operation Thunderstorm. The name was chosen because human forces would strike like lightning at 17 different hegemony positions simultaneously. The coordinated attack would use every advantage humanity had developed, including quantum targeting cyber warfare and the new gravity weapons. Ben Carter's team on New Haven had made their own contribution to the war effort. Chris Anderson's computer viruses had evolved into sophisticated programs that could take control of alien systems and turn their own weapons against them. The latest version could spread through the hegemony network faster than their security. Systems could detect and stop it. The operation began when Anderson launched his most powerful virus into the Alien Command Network. Within hours, hegemony ships across 3 star systems found their computers malfunctioning and their weapons firing. At random targets, some alien vessels even began attacking each other as the virus confused their targeting systems and made them see friends as enemies. Admiral Blake led her expanded fleet of 40 ships against the main hegemony base near Saturn. The enemy had 70 ships defending the installation, but half of them were crippled by computer viruses before the battle even started. Blake's forces used quantum targeting to place gravity bombs exactly where they would cause maximum damage to enemy vessels. Captain Tom Bradley commanded one of the attack groups that struck the hegemony supply depot in the asteroid belt. His ships moved through the enemy formation like sharks attacking a school of fish, using their superior speed and accuracy to destroy targets while avoiding return fire. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to be everywhere at once. Commander Jennifer Walsh led another group against the Alien Communications Center on Europa. Her mission was to capture the facility intact so human technicians could study hegemony technology and communication codes. The attack succeeded perfectly as cyber warfare disabled the defenses while gravity bombs cleared away the protecting fleet. The results of Operation Thunderstorm exceeded every expectation. 17 hegemony positions were attacked simultaneously, and 16 of them were completely destroyed or captured. Only one target managed to fight off the human assault, and even that facility was heavily damaged. The aliens lost over 200 ships while human casualties were minimal. More importantly, the coordinated attack proved that humanity could strike anywhere in the galaxy with devastating effectiveness. The hegemony's strategy of slow pressure was failing as human forces became stronger and more aggressive with each victory. Alien commanders who had expected easy conquest found themselves facing an enemy that learned from every battle and adapted faster than they thought possible. Colonel Hughes received news of the space victories while leading his largest raid yet against alien ground forces on Iron Ridge. His resistance fighters had grown from a few hundred survivors to an army of thousands as more civilians joined the fight against the occupation. The attack on the main alien base was timed to coincide with Operation Thunderstorm and succeeded in driving enemy forces off the planet completely. The liberation of Iron Ridge became a symbol of human determination that inspired resistance movements on other occupied worlds. Kate Murphy's fighters on Green Valley launched their own uprising and managed to seize control of the planetary capital. Joe Turner's saboteurs on Red Rock destroyed the alien mining operation and forced the enemy to abandon their attempts to extract resources from human territory. President Amanda Ross addressed the nation after receiving reports of the victories. Her message was broadcast to every human world and ship in space, as she announced that the tide of war was turning in humanity's favor. The aliens who had demanded surrender were now the ones facing destruction as human forces pressed their advantages. The Hegemony Coalition held emergency meetings as their military commanders struggled to understand how a primitive species had gained such devastating capabilities in only a few months. Some alien leaders began to question whether the war against humanity was worth the terrible losses they were suffering. The success of Operation Thunderstorm marked the beginning of humanity's great counteroffensive against the Hegemony Coalition. Human forces were no longer content to simply defend their territory or conduct small raids against enemy positions. Admiral Blake received authorization from President Ross to take the war directly into alien space and show the galaxy that humanity would not be intimidated by any threat. The Storm Fleet was born from this new aggressive strategy. 500 ships equipped with the latest quantum weapons, gravity bombs, and cyber warfare systems assembled at the secret base near Pluto. The fleet represented everything humanity had learned during months of desperate fighting combined with technological advances that gave them advantages even over the advanced hegemony forces. Admiral Blake commanded the massive armada from her new flagship, Vengeance, which was built specifically to honor the memory of the destroyed Aurora Dawn. The ship carried the most powerful weapons human science could create, along with quantum communication systems that allowed instant coordination between all elements of the Storm Fleet. Dr. Rachel Stone's research team had achieved another breakthrough that would change the nature of space warfare forever. Working with quantum field manipulation, they had created the ultimate weapon against alien vessels. The quantum disruptor could destabilize matter at the molecular level, causing enemy ships to simply fall apart without any visible explosion or debris. The first target for the Storm Fleet was Kepler Station, the most heavily fortified hegemony base in known space. The massive installation had never been successfully attacked in over a century of alien expansion and was considered impregnable by military experts throughout the galaxy. Its capture would send a message to every species that humanity had become the dominant force in space. Commander Alex Turner had developed the strategy for attacking Kepler Station using revolutionary tactics that combined all of humanity's new capabilities. His plan called for a three-phase assault that would overwhelm the station's defenses through speed coordination and technological superiority rather than brute force. The attack began with Chris Anderson's most sophisticated computer virus penetrating the station's network and causing widespread system failures. Alien weapons turned offline while defensive shields flickered and died as the virus spread through every computer system on the massive installation. Communication between different sections of the station was cut, leaving defenders isolated and unable to coordinate their response. Phase 2 involved precision strikes by small groups of human ships using quantum targeting to place gravity bombs at critical structural points. The bombs were designed to weaken the station's framework without destroying it completely, since humans wanted to capture the facility intact for study and future use as a forward base. Captain Paul Stevens led one of the strike groups that penetrated the station's outer defenses. His ships moved through the chaos caused by the computer virus like dancers performing a deadly ballet, using their superior speed and maneuverability to avoid enemy fire while delivering devastating attacks on key targets. The final phase brought the full weight of the Storm Fleet against any remaining resistance. Hundreds of human ships surrounded Kepler Station and demanded immediate surrender from the surviving alien defenders. Faced with overwhelming force and cut off from reinforcements, the hegemony garrison had no choice but to lay down their weapons. The capture of Kepler Station sent shockwaves throughout alien space as news of the impossible victory spread to every member species of the coalition. The fortress that had protected hegemony territory for generations was now under human control and serving as a base for further attacks into alien systems. General Dan Hughes led the ground assault that liberated the remaining occupied human worlds. His experience fighting guerrilla campaigns had taught him how to coordinate different types of forces for maximum effectiveness. Regular Marines worked alongside resistance fighters, while orbital bombardment from the Storm Fleet cleared away heavy enemy positions. The liberation campaign succeeded beyond all expectations as human forces drove alien occupiers from world after world. The tactics that had been developed during desperate resistance movements were now applied on a massive scale with devastating results. Enemy forces that had expected to face conventional military opposition found themselves fighting entire populations, supported by advanced technology and overwhelming firepower. Kate Murphy became a general herself, leading combined operations that freed 3 agricultural worlds in a single month. Her forces used captured alien equipment along with human innovations to create mobile armies that could strike anywhere and disappear before enemy reinforcements arrived. The speed of her campaigns left hegemony commanders unable to predict where the next attack would come. Dr. Stone's team completed testing of the quantum disruptor, and the results exceeded every prediction. The first deployment against a hegemony battle group resulted in 30 alien ships, simply disintegrating as their molecular bonds collapsed under quantum interference. The weapon was so effective that entire enemy fleets began retreating rather than face the possibility of instantaneous destruction. The psychological impact of the quantum disruptor was perhaps even more important than its military effectiveness. Alien crews who had considered themselves masters of space warfare suddenly found themselves helpless against human technology they could not understand or defend against. Morale in hegemony forces collapsed as word spread about ships that vanished without trace or warning. 3 minor species within the coalition began secret negotiations to change sides and ally themselves with humanity. The bird-like Corvani and the crystalline Zephyrites both sent ambassadors to discuss terms for switching their allegiance. Even the aquatic tidal lords who had been founding members of the hegemony started questioning whether continued resistance against humanity was possible. President Ross received the alien ambassadors on Earth and listened to their offers of alliance. She made it clear that humanity would welcome peaceful cooperation with any species willing to respect human sovereignty and territorial rights. However, she also warned that any attempt at deception or betrayal would result in the same fate that was befalling the core hegemony worlds. The Storm Fleet continued its advance into alien territory, capturing or destroying every hegemony installation they encountered. Admiral Blake's forces had grown to 800 ships, as more vessels joined the fleet from human shipyards working at maximum capacity. The aliens who had started the war with overwhelming numerical superiority now found themselves outnumbered and outgunned by an enemy they had underestimated. 1 year after the massacre of the Aurora Dawn, the hegemony coalition was collapsing under the relentless pressure of human military forces. The Storm Fleet, under Admiral Blake's command, had captured over half of former alien territory, while resistance movements led by officers like General Hughes had liberated every occupied human world. The species that had demanded humanity's surrender now faced the possibility of their own extinction. Ambassador Krell stood in the same chamber where he had delivered ultimatums to human colonies months earlier, but now his position was completely reversed. The proud alien who had threatened to destroy the Aurora Dawn was requesting permission to meet with human leaders and discuss terms for ending the war. His 4 eyes showed fear instead of arrogance as he waited for President Ross to respond to his desperate plea. The meeting took place aboard a neutral space station in the border region between human and alien territory. Krell arrived with only a small escort, while Admiral Blake brought an entire battle group to demonstrate humanity's overwhelming military superiority. The alien ambassador, who had once commanded thousands of warships, now traveled in a single damaged vessel that barely functioned. President Ross entered the conference room wearing a simple black uniform that honored the memory of everyone who had died during the war. She looked directly at Krell and saw the same creature who had threatened 50,000 innocent colonists with destruction. The alien's arrogance had been replaced by desperation as he realized that his species faced the same fate he had promised to inflict on humanity. Krell spoke first, and his voice shook with emotions that humans had never heard from hegemony representatives before. President Ross, I come before you to offer the unconditional surrender of all coalition forces. Our military resistance has collapsed, and our worlds are defenseless against your storm fleet. I beg you to show mercy to populations that had no voice in the decision to attack humanity. Admiral Blake sat beside the president and studied tactical displays that showed the current military situation. Human forces controlled most of the former hegemony territory, while alien fleets had been reduced to scattered groups hiding in remote systems. The quantum disruptor weapons had proven so effective that many alien crews simply abandoned their ships rather than face certain destruction. The consequences of humanity's victory were already spreading throughout the galaxy as neutral species observed the complete collapse of what had been the most powerful military alliance in known space. Several distant civilizations were forming a new coalition designed to contain human expansion before it reached their own territory. The humans who had been dismissed as a primitive species were now seen as the greatest threat to galactic stability. President Ross listened to Krell's surrender offer, but her expression remained cold and unforgiving. The alien had shown no mercy when human civilians were being driven from their homes, and she felt no obligation to be generous in victory. However, she also understood that humanity's long-term interests required establishing a reputation for fairness, even toward defeated enemies. Ambassador Krell, she said in a steady voice, your coalition attacked peaceful human colonists without provocation and threatened to destroy entire populations unless we abandoned our right to expand through space. You chose war when diplomacy could have solved our differences, and now you must accept the consequences of that decision. She activated a holographic display showing the current extent of human-controlled territory. The map included all former hegemony worlds plus several systems that had never been claimed by any species. Human expansion had accelerated during the war as military victories opened new regions for colonization. Humanity will accept your surrender under the following conditions, President Ross continued. All hegemony military forces will disarm immediately and submit to human oversight. War crimes trials will be held for commanders who ordered attacks on civilian targets. Reparations will be paid to families who lost members during your unprovoked aggression. Krell's shoulders sagged as he realized that his species would survive, but only as subjects of the human empire they had tried to destroy. The hegemonies, member worlds, would become protectorates under human administration until they proved they could be trusted to govern themselves peacefully. On New Haven, Ben Carter had become the planet's first elected governor, presiding over a thriving colony of 200,000 people. The world that had been intended as humanity's 15th colony was now the heart of a growing federation that included dozens of former alien worlds. Dr. Claire Walsh served as his chief medical officer, overseeing health services for multiple species learning to live under human rule. The colonists had built beautiful cities using both human technology and captured alien equipment. Children who had fled the Aurora Dawn in escape pods were now teenagers attending schools where they learned alongside young aliens whose parents had chosen to cooperate with the new human administration. The integration was not always smooth, but it represented hope for a peaceful future. General Hughes established the Human Colonial Marine Corps as an elite military force trained to defend human interests throughout the galaxy. Veterans of resistance campaigns became instructors teaching new recruits the tactics that had defeated the most powerful alien military in known space. The Corps would serve as both protector and symbol of human determination to any species considering aggression against humanity. Dr. Rachel Stone's research had moved beyond weapons development to peaceful applications of quantum technology. Her team was working on faster-than-light travel systems that would allow humans to explore distant regions of the galaxy in weeks rather than years. The same quantum fields that had destroyed hegemony fleets would soon carry human explorers to stars that no species had ever visited. President Ross addressed the Galaxy Council, a new organization formed to manage relationships between the dozens of species now under human influence. Representatives from former hegemony worlds sat alongside ambassadors from neutral civilizations and the three species that had switched sides during the war. The balance of power had shifted completely in humanity's favor. Citizens of the galaxy, she began, humanity seeks peace and cooperation with all species willing to respect our sovereignty and territorial rights. We have proven that we will defend ourselves against any threat, but we prefer to build rather than destroy. The choice between friendship and conflict rests with each of you. The final scene showed construction beginning on a new generation of colony ships in the orbital shipyards above Earth. These vessels would carry human families to worlds beyond the former hegemony territory as expansion continued into unexplored regions of space. The aliens had pushed humanity too far and awakened a storm that would reshape the galaxy for generations to come. Ben Carter stood on the observation deck of the New Haven space station and watched the new ships taking shape against the stars. The journey that had begun with 50,000 hopeful colonists had become an epic of human determination that proved no force in the universe could stop a species fighting for its survival and freedom.